So to start out our interview, Guru Dev, I'd like you to tell me a bit about your childhood in India growing up.
Right, my childhood happened in a most remote, simple lifestyle where my parents lived in a very small village called Pratappura. It was so small, there were no more than 700 people. And my father had a small shop. Like, what kind of shop can you have for 700 people? So we lived an extremely simple life. There was no electricity. There was no running water. And then after my age 5, I had to go to a school that was about 2 miles away, and it was 4 standards. So 4 classes sat in one room, and one teacher taught all 4 classes in a one room.
Wow, did you get a break to get up in between the classes?
This was a totally different style. You cannot even explain it. And like, how did it work? I don't know.
Now, do you have brothers, sisters? Are you an only child?
I have 1 brother and 4 sisters.
Wow.
2 of them have passed on.
Wow. And are they still living back in India, or is
No,
any
they
of them in the
live,
States?
they live here, yes.
Wonderful. Now, when you say here, do you mean
In
Florida?
America.
In America.
Yes,
Wonderful. What states are they in?
in North Carolina and
Nice.
mainly North Carolina and New Jersey.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
Yes.
I used to live in New Jersey, so
Yes.
wonderful. Yes, it's nice to be up in the mountains with nature, right?
Yes.
And so, at what age did you start practicing yoga?
I was practicing more like a physical culture kind of thing. My father was an athlete,
Okay.
so he inspired me to go to gymnasium. So I would get up early in the morning, 5 o'clock at that age, and early in the morning, there I go and do exercises. And there was a yoga chart, so I did yoga from the chart. And I got good at it on my own. There was no teacher to teach you. So from that, I was interested in health and also in improving myself in every possible way. So I got interested in reading the spiritual books, doing sports, learning music, reading good books, and all those good things I started doing. But at the age of 16, I was about 16, my guru came to my hometown. That is another big town where I moved to after I finished primary school in that small town. So it was Halol. It was like 20,000 people lived there at the time. Now it has swelled to 50,000 now.
Wow.
So it's very big now. So when I was in that town, my guru, Swami Kripalu, came there. He was giving lectures in the different cities on Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of Bhagavad Gita. So when I heard him, I said everything that I want, I heard him say. So I became very interested in what he was teaching, and that was, I didn't know that it was the yoga of Bhagavad Gita. I just was very enchanted by the teachings that rang so clear bell to my intuitive knowing of what is truth. So that's what attracted me to him. And then I wanted to be so close to him so I can just do things for him. Like elderly people, when he would give lectures to a large audience from my hometown, elderly people will fan him, give him water, serve him food, and I said, I want to do that. So I was very eager to be close to him in some way. So I just couldn't get to that because in India, they don't let children do whatever they want to do. So finally, then he built a cowshed in my hometown from the money he got as donations for his lectures because he won't take any money. So he will create something for the benefit of the town. So that's where he also had a meditation room for himself on the second story. And the first story was for the other purposes. So one day, I was demonstrating yoga to my Creed friends, and I was guiding them into yoga postures that I had learned from just looking at a chart. Bapuji, my guru, Kripalu, was coming down from his spiritual meditations, and he was on the steps, and he saw me, so he didn't move. He just kept observing me. So he was very impressed. 16-year-old, being so much interested in yoga, guiding the friends. So he was very impressed. So he did an amazing thing. He says, tomorrow, come upstairs. I will show you something amazing that will change your life. From that day, I don't know how I walk home after that. I was flying. Because just to be that close, it's not just giving water. He's inviting me in his meditation room when he is doing the very private, secret sadhana that he wouldn't show to anybody. Then later on, after 15 years or so, he said, I have never allowed anybody to be in my sadhana room ever except Amrit at one time. That's it.
Wow.
So he showed me something that what Kundalini does when Kundalini or prana is awakened. So he showed me amazing things that was happening spontaneously in the state of meditation. So when I saw all that, I was very impressed. But what he said is this was happening all spontaneously. He wasn't doing it. It was happening. There was spiritual force that was guiding him into it without him deciding what to do.
Sure.
I couldn't understand that, of course. I was a child, but that stayed with me. And in 1971, I had awakening of prana, and my body did the similar kind of things of doing postures automatically, and they were guided and prompted from beyond my mind. There is another spiritual spirit that is in every one of us, but it gets suppressed when we are very mentally active.
Yes.
It dominates the mind, dominates the spirit. So my guru had given me blessing. I didn't know. In the yoga, it is called Shaktipat, energetic transmission he had done, but didn't tell me. So he said, if I told you, you will expect it and interrupt it. So then it happened automatically. And I was in awe with what was happening, what was doing inside of me. What was happening from inside was such miraculous things, like my body will know what to target, what is the blockage. We also know how to arrange particular postures, breathing patterns, and move my body in that position to target that particular blockage and release it.
Fantastic.
I could observe that, but I was amazed at the miraculous functions of this force that was working through my body, but not by my guidance. My mind was taking a back seat. And I found myself performing most amazing postures with amazing flexibility I had never been able to do before that. So, because I had entered into such alpha brainwave states, such relaxed state while doing it, because it was being done in meditation. So it was not done by my ego mind dominating my body.
I got you. I was just about
When
to
that
ask.
happened, that force was doing amazing things in my body. And I was getting progressively more absorbed, engaged, and merging into what was happening. Somewhere along the way, I was so, showers of bliss was coming over me. And somewhere I disappeared. I don't know what happened for a long time, short time. I don't even know how much time I spent. And then I was doing that in the presence of my wife and another 2 students from my yoga class. So they will come in the morning and we'll do yoga practice. They as I was entering into that force took over my body while I was guiding them, I could not even tell them, don't worry about me, nothing. I just had to give it in. So they must have just said, I was thinking also, oh my God, what are they thinking while I'm doing this?
Yes.
They must be thinking like he must be out of his mind. And I was, but not in that way. I was beyond my mind, not out of my
Yes.
mind. I was in a deep meditation driven by the blessing of my Guru Kripalu.
Wonderful.
So from that, after a while, when I opened my eyes, finally I came back in my body. Everything came back. I was in the room. I was with the people. Nothing was there for a while. I was so deeply still that there was no breath. I tried to speak to them and say, what did you do? What did you experience? I couldn't even form my words because I had entered into such stillness and breath was so completely almost gone that I could not project my voice. Finally, when I asked, I didn't have to ask. They were in deep meditation. I could see that, just watching me.
So when you were 16 is when a big shift started. How did your family feel about all this? Were they very supportive for what you were doing?
This is a very good question. You're smart. So what happened is, I was so enchanted by my guru that as soon as I will finish my high school class, I'll throw my books and I'll go there. So my friends will come, hey Amrit, let's go for a walk. So they'll say, where else would you find? He'll be with Gurudev of Kripalu. So then they will come there to find me. So I was always with him. And my oldest sister's friend saw, and my sister family, everybody saw, I was very irritable, angry, agitated kind of a personality. And all of a sudden, everything was changed about me.
Wow.
So they couldn't believe. They said, wow, that's a big difference. So my oldest sister's friend said, you better watch out your brother because he might become a Swami. So that's the way it happened. So they were concerned that I was so much getting into it, I may leave these worldly attachments.
Gotcha.
Yes. So from that experience that I had, I saw what real yoga is. Because I had read the fundamental core books on yoga, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Yoga Bhagavad Gita. I read that. After this experience, I read the same books. They were not the same books. I read something so completely different that I could not read before my awakening. So when I read that, I saw my experience being explained in that book.
Wonderful.
Then what I said, oh my God, I said, I entered into this by the blessing and Shaktipat, or energetic transmission from my Guru Kripalu. How can I give this to the world? So I started framing different techniques by which they can willfully create situations so they can enter the surrender of ego mind to their prana body. The pranic, then prana is it's what they call chi.
Correct.
And in yoga it is called prana. And in religious language it is called spirit.
Yes.
Or breath. So breath is the spirit. God, good Lord, breathed the breath and man came alive from dust. Something like that. There is a quote in Bible. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that. I understood the meaning of all the scriptural teachings. When Christ said, your body is the temple, I got completely what that means. And that's what I started explaining in relationship. How does the relationship, why doesn't it work? And how to make it so that it works externally by learning it work internally. So So that is what I saw. So I started writing a new book on how to practice yoga as taught by Patanjali, the ancient father of yoga. So then I developed Kripalu Yoga. And then I wrote in such a way that people will learn how to awaken their own prana that I experienced from the blessing. So I developed the whole technique. So in that I have developed very powerful tools, techniques, and insightful teachings that give them an access as to how to reach that part of their being. So that is why I call it yoga of meditation in motion.
So as one would say, it sounds like you were born for this. This is your purpose.
Right. That is why I met my guru, and he had thousands and thousands of followers in India. And I became one of the 4 core disciples because he saw that I was ready. And he just then also, after he came to America, he invited me for training at different times and trained me into the secrets of yoga that most people do not know how it works. So some of the secrets of the earlier time, how to enter it, is what I have built into now Amrit Yoga. Now I call it integrative Amrit methods. Means I am yoga. Integrative Amrit methods. I am yoga because it is the yoga of how to go back to Amrit. In Amrit in Sanskrit means nectar of immortality that I am.
Got it.
So I am fits with the Amrit.
Nice.
So I developed that yoga when I left Kripalu, and then now it has reached out to hundreds and thousands of people.
Let's go back to India. What made you decide to leave India? How old were you?
Well, you are asking amazing questions. So when I was in India, I was a teacher in a high school. I was a drawing teacher, art teacher. I was teaching art. So I was just high school graduate, but I had a very good art, so I was an art teacher. Then I went to Indian Air Force because I wanted to be a pilot so bad that I joined the Air Force. I got all the amazing training, physical training, and all these things for a year and a half. Then I entered the pilot test. I failed. So I said, I don't want to be here anymore because they wanted me to be an air gunner. I said, no, I can't do that.
It's not your purpose.
So I left that. Then I came back and I got qualified as a drawing teacher in a more reputable school. So then I was hired as a drawing teacher in one of the most reputable English medium Catholic school in Ahmedabad. So I was in an English medium school. Because I had learned some English in Air Force, so I was able to teach in an English medium school.
And how
the
old were
art.
you? How old were you?
I was at that time, it was in 1956 I joined. I was born in 32. So I don't know how many years.
So you were like 24 years old.
Yes, about 24.
Yeah.
So I was in English medium school, and there was a Christian lady who was a teacher. Her brother was in America. So he was writing letters about what he was seeing in America. When I read that letter, I said, I am going to America. I could not. My father couldn't even send me to college in India. I mean, this college in America and flying expense, living expense, nothing. There was nothing in my mind that would bother me. I said, I'm going means I'm going.
And how did your father feel?
He didn't want me to go.
That's
No,
quite
at
a
that
distance.
time, my mother was there. My father it was at the Air Force time. He didn't want me to go to Air Force because it's dangerous.
Yes, it is.
So my father wasn't living at that time. So my mother was there. And so I said, I'm going to America. So I got so excited. So I went in the teacher's room, and I told all the teacher's room, and I said, I'm going to America. One of the Muslim teacher, he says, barking dogs never bite. I said, you don't know when they stop barking and start biting. So don't worry about that part.
I love that.
So then I went to my uncle. So I said, I want to go to America. I want to borrow 1,000 rupees from you. So he said, let me get the astrologer to see if you have a line in your hands. So the astrologer comes. I show my hand. And the astrologer says, you don't have a line. I said, what do you mean? I'll cut the line, I'll go. No, really. He said, there's no line. Doesn't matter, no matter who says what. That's
Good
how
for
I came
you.
to America.
Good for you.
And then I sold my bicycle, my watch, borrowed 1,000 rupees from 3 different friends, and I had just enough money to fly, and $1,000, that's it I had. In 1960, February 5th, I came to America.
Wow.
And at that time, the tuition was $1,000. So I just paid 1 semester. I stayed in International House, most inexpensive way to live.
And what state was that?
It is called International House, where foreign students live in a very reasonable.
Right, but where in America was it?
That was in Philadelphia on Cherry Street.
Nice. Okay, I was just in Philadelphia. Okay, wonderful.
And I joined Philadelphia College of Art.
Nice.
So that's where I came.
Wonderful.
Yes. And because I had an art background, but that's the only way I come to America. I couldn't come any other way. So that was a very tough life, because nobody from India comes for undergraduate course, because it is full-time course. Otherwise, master's degree you can do part-time in the evening, do job during the day, so you can work out your finances. I didn't have that privilege. So I was thrown in a completely unknown culture, knowing nothing, how it works, how to live, how to make money, and I wasn't allowed to make any money because immigration won't allow me to work outside. But I was allowed to work inside, but this Philadelphia College of Art is very small. Only place I could get a job is the dishwashing.
So what did you do?
I got a dishwasher's job.
Okay.
And then when I was very mischievous, my mother would say, nobody will keep you even as a dishwasher, because I was very mischievous. Because that's a menial job.
Yes.
You don't do that.
But you do
So
what it
when
takes
I wrote
to
my
survive.
mother, I found a job of dishwasher just for fun.
Yes, exactly.
So she laughed.
So that was some very financial tough times back then.
Very financial, very tight time, but I lived with consciousness.
Yes.
And I started teaching yoga very early in International House. There was an international festival ball organized by International House, and I represented. I played flute, and I demonstrated yoga and gave a talk on yoga in one of the biggest hotel of Philadelphia.
Wow.
I forgot the name. So then it took off very quickly because many newspapers came and they wanted to interview me, and then Rotary Club invited me for lectures. Night schools started inviting me for evening classes. Junto Adult School invited me to teach art, and it just started right away, very big. So I finished my bachelor's degree in 1963. Then I had a full-time job until 66. Then I went back to India to see my guru.
Okay.
And I told him, I thought, in case he says, no, you stay here and you do meditation right here, I will train you. So before going, I went through entire American trip, and I traveled through 13 countries all over Europe.
Oh, wow.
Well, just so that I don't miss anything in case I could not come back.
Were you teaching yoga in these different states as you were visiting, or?
No,
Good.
I just made such a cheap way of traveling. I bought a Volkswagen in Europe, bought it from there, used that to travel all different countries, took so many photographs of the churches and everything, and then so I could not miss that, because it was, Bapuji says, you stay there, I don't come back.
Now, were you single at the time? Had you
No, I
met
was
somebody?
married.
You were married at
I
the
had
time.
it, yes. So then I go back to India, and Bapuji says, no, you go back, because this is your karma for you to carry this to the West. So I came back in 66, and by 70, I had the largest yoga center in America at that time.
Wow.
I had 150 yoga classes
Wow.
in New Jersey area, Delaware area, Philadelphia area, night schools, YMCAs, YMHAs, everything. I still have a cyclo-style list of 150 classes. I still have it.
Wow.
So it became the biggest. Why? Because what I taught was so deep, but still it wasn't from my experience yet. And when I went to India, who is more like a pope of Hindu religion, Jagadguru Shankaracharya, he gave me the degree of doctorate for doing the work I was doing. But when I had the awakening in 1971, when this yoga society swelled to 150 yoga classes a week, almost 2,500 people were taking classes under my organization. Wow. And the teachers I had trained. And they were paying 50% to the nonprofit, and they were keeping 50% for teaching. So in those days, I'm talking about 1970, there were not so much yoga at all.
Right.
So that was, and from there on, it just kept growing. Because after my awakening, it was like a different world. I started teaching different way. It was more energetic transmission was happening rather than verbal teaching.
So you had your first center in 1970 or 71?
The first center was in 71 in outside of Philadelphia. Then I gave up all my classes to my brother and all the teachers. I said, these are your classes. I'm moving out of, because I saw that the depth of teaching that I was giving for an hour and a half class was so superficial. And I have seen the depth of it. So I went to the ashram, and where then gradually it became a yoga training center. And then there are people who, no matter where I went, and I had so many newspaper interviews, television interviews, radio interviews. I had a list of all of that I kept. So it was growing so fast. So everywhere I went, people wanted to come and live with me because their life got so touched. They said, we want in-depth training. And that's why I moved away. And that's what I saw, and that's what came to me. So we had almost like 60 full-time residents in Samne Town Ashram, where, and then they were resident, trained staff to provide programs to everybody else who came for the weekends or week-long programs, yoga teacher training programs.
So then after the ashram, didn't you start up a center after that? Was
Yes, there was another center because more people wanted to come, but there was no space. So I bought another center in Summit Station, Pennsylvania, another 70 miles from there. It was like 280 acres, Olympic-sized swimming pool, a big building. So there, more people came to live with me as a full-time volunteer resident staff. That swelled up to 150 full-time resident staff and program center. We started health center and master's degree program there, massage center, everything that was so new in those days, I started that.
And what year was that center?
That was maybe in, I think it's all written in my bio.
Was that the 1975 when you did that?
Right.
Okay.
75 to 82. Then, even that was small, so we bought Shadowbrook Kripalu Center in Massachusetts.
Nice.
So then it was so big. It was 350 acres
Wow.
and on a building that had 4 stories, each story was 1 acre. So the whole building was 170,000 square feet.
Wow.
So I took the whole staff of Summit Station to the Summit to Kripalu Center, and then 150 lived in the building, and within very short time, many people who wanted to move in to go more in-depth practice, because when I taught, they got energetic experience, and they wanted to go into it because they were attracted not by what I said, but what they felt as experientially. So that was the difference of my teachings. So we had a staff that swelled within very short time from 150 that was brought from Summit Station, Pennsylvania. It grew into 350 full-time resident staff, volunteer staff.
Wow.
And it was more like a village. We had 70 cars. We have our own printing press. We had a big kitchen.
Wow.
We had 350 staff, yes. So, and then we could accommodate another 300 guests. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 700 people. Can you believe that?
Wow, nice. One big happy family.
One big, and it was so big. One of the times, the New York Times lady came to check and say how the center is. She said, "This is such an amazing center. Everybody has Gurudev's eyes."
Oh.
They could see the love coming from
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
Because it was such a beautiful center. And then, what is another big newspaper that put Kripalu as one of the 5 spas, biggest spas in whole of America.
Oh, wow.
Kripalu Center was 5th one,
Wow.
and Golden Door and all of the biggest ones.
Nice. I'm sorry I missed that spa.
Yes. It is still as big as it was. It
Very.
has gotten bigger, but it is, the spirit is different.
Now, something happened with the center that caused you to leave. Take me to that moment. Take me to how that felt to you.
Right. And there was the crisis that created, and of course, when any of the work, whether it is business or spiritual work, gets too big, and there are different conflicts that arise, and this conflict arose from because it was created by some karmic poisonous seeds that I had planted in my past.
Okay.
That was time to harvest.
Okay.
So that is what created the separation. And so that was the most amazing experience for me. And that is why I ended up living and creating something different, independent. And during that time, I was also, because I was going through, because the volunteer staff and having them work, after having them work for so many hours, their life, and then they were also not getting what they thought they should get. So they're getting restless about
Yes,
that.
there's a void.
So, right. If it was paid staff, probably it would have been a very different situation.
Yes.
And then other things that had happened in the past that was my creation, was the consequences came up, and so it was so difficult. The conflict rose at such a high level that I had to live, because I wasn't interested in living in conflict because my life was dedicated to create harmony. But the manner in which situation happened, I felt completely out of control. And so I didn't want to go through that. So that is when I left, and my friend invited me to stay in his ashram. And so
Which was located where?
it is in Alachua, Mickey Singer's. It is called
What state is it in?
in Florida,
Gotcha.
outside of Gainesville.
Okay,
He has the
wonderful.
ashram.
Okay, so
Right.
you got to take a
Temple
break
of the
from
Universe.
Massachusetts.
So I
Good.
stayed there, and I started teaching there with him.
Was it hard? Because the biggest thing that people want to know as they're searching for success and they're going down that path and they're trying to make it, we all go through hard times, we all go through dark times.
Right.
Explain what your experience was at what others would consider to be a low moment.
Right. No, this is so true that I did go through the biggest transformative experience in my life. And that was told in my horoscope also. In my horoscope, some astrologers from India were telling me that there is a big change coming in your life. And then you will live everything and you will go somewhere else. I said, that sounds familiar because I'm planning to move to looking for ashram in St. Croix. We were already trying to we had bought a land, we were going to build an ashram in St. Croix. So I said, that's what he's talking about. I didn't suspect this at all.
Yeah.
But it was amazing that all that happened was already meant to happen. Then when this happened, I am friends with all the yogis, Yogi Bhajan and Swami Satchidanand and Swami Dayanand, all the great yogis. So Swami Dayanand called me and says, Amritji, send me your horoscope. I'm going to India and I would like to show it to the astrologer that is very famous. He's so accurate. So when he took that to him, he's from South India. See, he wrote everything in South Indian language. I was stunned to see everything was written so clearly, as if he saw everything in detail.
So
in my horoscope.
it was something you were destined to go through.
Yes.
But the
and to me,
question
it wasn't a punishment. It was, in a way, a blessing.
Of course.
Because it was in my chart, they call it the Grand Cross. That's what they call it. But that comes from the certain planets coming together and creating such things that you have to leave everything and just change your life completely.
Oh, wow.
Relocate, live everything of the past. Nothing comes with you that was of the past.
Which is what happened.
I was so completely amazed by
Yeah.
that. I said, he knew that. But I knew it also because what happened to me was also a test for me to go through and see how I process it. So this is that when I only saw that what happened because of my living, Kripalu, was destined, but also known by me that it was my opportunity to make a quantum shift from my past into my consciousness.
Absolutely.
That was my opportunity.
So
And it all depends on how I processed it. So I wasn't like angry with people who did this to me or what I did wrong, and I just could see everything process it through the consciousness.
So it was your level of awareness and consciousness that brought you to that point.
Exactly.
Were there tears? Were there depression? Was there any moments of just complete shock of what is going on? Why am I at
This is the
moment
most
in my life?
amazing thing that I have to tell you, but most people won't believe. There was only one day when I felt like I don't want to eat. I said, now I know when people are in such pain and hurt, they're not hungry. I saw the whole thing, what happens. When people say, I'm depressed, what happens? When they say, I'm fearful, what happens? Because I had just one night when I slept, didn't sleep until 1 or 2 o'clock, which was new for me because then even during that time, I slept completely every night. Because there was no emotional charge behind it of self-rejection, blame, shame, guilt, anger, fear, through which I was processing. But there was a lot of processing to do about the effects that it created and to deal with external situations that it created. That did create fear and worry, but not so much so that I was depressed, angry, or anxiety. That never happened.
Now, let's step back for a moment. We were talking before about Pennsylvania, and you were married. Did you have any children? How many children do you have? Where was your wife in all of this?
My situation was such that all those things I was able to work it out because they were very open. When all these things happened, it was amazing. Because I had told one time, I was driving with my daughter and my son, driving, and just say, you see this? They are just putting garlands and giving flowers to me. One day they will throw shoes at me and stones at me. They knew how these things work also.
Sure.
So they took it, so there was no conflicts in my intimate relationship, even though I had violated, that was obviously there, but it was not intentional, it was difficult and I was victim of it and tried to come out of it, so it wasn't like I was doing it intentionally and over and over, there was no such thing. So they all saw where I was coming from. So everything was very clear.
So your wife, your daughter, your son all stood by your side, is what you're saying?
100%.
Okay.
100%. There was not like, why did you do this? We have to look, Kripalu, you messed up my life. Not a single word.
They grew up awakened and aware and
they were very conscious. Because
for your raising,
I have lived consciously. That doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes in it.
We all make mistakes.
Right. There was flaw, obviously. And they could see it. And I admitted that. I didn't deny it. So they could see that also.
What year did you end up getting married, and what year did you have your daughter and your son? Because that is a big part of your story.
Those are the difficult questions. I never remember.
Those years are the difficult
when
ones.
somebody asks that, how old is your son? I look at my wife, and she knows I don't remember, so she will answer for me.
That's normal, yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, we'll get those details.
It's all written.
What are some of the deepest, darkest moments of your life? That's what people want to know. They want to know what it takes. You are at such a high level of consciousness and awareness that people long to be. That's why people have followed you and flocked and wanting to volunteer and live and visit the ashram. What are some of the darkest times you've had to go through before you got to that level?
See, this is a very interesting question, but I will have to answer it. What you call deepest, if I told you deepest, it'll be perhaps the shallowest for the most people. It was never that deep because I lived through everything consciously without blaming anybody for it, having anger, having a lot of fear and a lot of emotions around it. Wow. When I didn't have that, my deepest was like one night I couldn't eat. One or two nights I could not sleep. And when I had the fear of lawsuits or possibilities of something like that, I had little worries. So I checked with my friends, how should I handle? So I helped that way. I got help.
Would you say that was one of the toughest moments?
Those were the toughest moments.
Okay. Aside from the financial of first coming to America and doing the dishwashing and trying to make ends meet.
Oh, that wasn't tough. That was the fun. This was also conscious. So learning moments where it was, I could not say fun, but learning opportunities are very big opening for me.
Yeah.
And then I said, this God gave me this opportunity of, like I'm born again in the whole new life while I'm alive. And it was like an ultimate crucifixion. So Christ was crucified, was killed. I was crucified where everything I had was taken away in one day.
You had to be at that moment to advance on your spiritual journey.
At that time,
Yes.
I found that there is nothing I can do to stop the waves of what will happen about people will talk about me, what they will think about me. All those things I just saw. I couldn't do anything.
Correct.
That's when everything changed.
Wonderful.
I said, what would I do to protect myself from the rumors, exaggerations, and distortions of reality, what happened? And I had no way of getting back to tell anybody anything of what was really happening.
So did you just surrender and just be and go inside and connect at a deeper level?
What I saw was there was no way for me to say anything from my side of what happened. And I could not tell clearly. There was no way. Like in politics, if one president is involved, there are people who explain for him, protect him, newspaper where he can tell what things happened, what was wrong, what was not wrong. None of that. And I had opportunity to say in the newspapers, but I chose not to, because nothing is to explain my position, make somebody wrong and myself right,
Absolutely.
or being abused or I was abusive, because those were the stories. I didn't want to step out and move them into their stories by telling my story. So I'm not telling my story now.
Yeah.
I'm telling you how I handle internally.
Yeah.
So it's not about what people did to me.
Correct. It was
Or what happened.
your own internal healing, would
Internal
you say?
healing process.
Yes.
Yes.
Because one of my favorite quotes is, where attention goes is where your energy flows. So you
Right.
chose not to give the tabloids the attention
Right.
and maintain the energy to heal at a much rapid level
Internally, yes.
internally.
Because
Exactly.
I was not trying to change people's opinion about me. So what would I say and how many things I explain so the emotional reaction will understand what I'm saying. They say, oh, that's right. Thank you for saying that. Now I understand. That is impossible.
Exactly.
Because when people are triggered by emotional reaction, because I know that whatever I did acted as a trigger, and that triggered different reactions in different people, depending upon their own personal history. So if they had some kind of abuse or hard time with a authority or anything like that, they would see this differently
Correct.
than somebody who didn't have anything like that.
Absolutely.
They had something about money that they won't interpret this in the same way.
Of course.
So when I saw that, I said everybody would do what they do, they would do anyway. So I had to let go of no matter who would say what about me, because they were not saying about me, they were saying about how it had happened to them in their past.
You had mentioned that was one of your biggest shifts of spiritual awakening. Have there been any since then that you would say have raised your level of consciousness beyond that?
That is precisely what is unfolding at a deeper and subtler levels. Therefore, I'm writing that way also, and I'm teaching that way also. So what I'm recognizing, I'm also delivering, so that by delivering, I'm reinforcing my realizations and insights, like I am like downloading from the infinite source of knowledge, and therefore my teachings are coming from something so completely different than anything that I have read about this process.
So would you say...
And yet it has some similarities here and there, but some of the missing links are just falling in place.
So would you say you're spiritually channeling, and that's bringing you to that higher level of awareness in your writing?
This is precisely what is happening. So why am I able to spiritually process better than ever before? Better than even when I had Kripalu? Because I had really let go of all the emotional charge that usually comes up when things like this happen to you. So there was that event was taken as an opportunity to see that whatever I had done was not an edifice to my ego. It was done truly in the service to the divine. Therefore, when it was taken away, otherwise, if it was my ego that had done all this accomplishment, I would have been dead. I would not be able to sleep or eat and be so guilty and so angry, so fearful about what did I wrong and why did they treat me this way. None of it came at all.
Would you say that's one of the biggest lessons you could pass on to this generation, to recognize and come to a level of consciousness and awareness when bad things happen, which they're going to, and they do, it's a part of life, to identify it in a different way where it's not attached to the ego, where it will draw you to that devastating level?
Right, because what I saw was what happened there at Kripalu did not happen as an accident. I had myself planted the seeds of karma, it is called. And that was the consequence of it. So if I wanted to move beyond that karma that created this consequence, if I accept everyone, everything, and myself just the way I am, just the way it happened, and what happened, that karma is erased. Did you hear that?
Yes.
That was the test for me.
Key. Yeah. That's the biggest thing I would like to make note for people, because there are so many people struggling today that, for lack of better words, don't get it. That they
And that's
need
what I want to
know
bring
that.
out in a book, relationship. Maybe we can do it together.
I'm sure we can work something out on that,
Because
for sure.
that is so different, because your message is my message.
Absolutely.
And a relationship makes it very clear.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we have relationships all day long, whether it
All
be
day long.
boss or children or spouses or friends, and let's not forget
Everywhere.
about the
Business
relationship
or-
starting with ourselves, right? Which a lot of people overlook.
Right.
I was in the bookstore several times now. You have some amazing teachings in there. I just can get lost when I'm in there, in a good way. And I noticed that there's some of Deepak's books in there. What is your relationship to him?
So Deepak, we have been friends, and we have conducted several programs like in Hawaii. Myself, Deepak Chopra, and Bikram, three did a program for 7 days. I have done also the 7-day program in California with him and David. Also,
Nice.
I have also taught programs in his center for many times. And one time, he wanted me to be the chairperson of yoga center he wanted to develop. So I will give you the audio that where he is asking me.
Wow,
that.
yes.
One time he was interviewing me, and he was asking me about my awakening. And in that, he's asking about working with him or something.
Wow.
So he was very interested in working with me. So we were very close that way.
Wonderful.
So-
And do you stay in contact today?
Yes. And he has invited me several times as a complimentary treatment of Panchakarma treatment in his Ayurveda center.
Wow.
So one time, I was under treatment by his invitation, and he had a big seminar right at that time. So he says, Gurudev, would you like to come and talk to this group? There are about 600-700 people, and doctors and nurses. I said, yeah, I'll come. So I went there, and I had a certain amount of time, so I spoke, and I gave a demonstration. I dropped into the oneness state completely, and audience was mesmerized. So then I asked them, how many of you felt like I wasn't there? Almost all hands went up, including Deepak. How many of you felt like my body could lift up any time? They said, wow. How many of you saw my face change? This was a scientific community. I had never done or taken that kind of a chance to ask that kind of question to a scientist, doctors. And it was an amazing phenomena. It went so well that Deepak said, this is my time, so you continue. So
It's interesting you bring that up because I tell all of my friends the opportunity in spending that day at the Hindu temple when you were there in Castleberry and the meditation and the teaching. I said I felt like he was going to levitate right off the floor. So
really?
It's interesting that you just brought up that same
yes,
statement.
and when I go
That's
in that
amazing.
space, I
Yes.
am not there.
I love it.
Yes.
I was ready for a nap when I went home. It was like a form of detoxification.
So I was just on this tour, so I gave a talk, and at the end somebody said, would you please give Mala blessing to one lady who knows you, she wants to bless. So I said yes. So the whole audience, like about 85 people were sitting there. So I took the mala in my hand and I closed my eyes. I instantly went so deep. And then I have never checked that part. I said, how many of you felt like your mind went blank? All hands went up.
Wow.
This
Wonderful.
So this is not for me. I have gone there. I know what I'm talking about. And that's where I get my information when I teach.
So you're doing this as a passion, your purpose, to give
Yes.
back to others so that they can free themselves
Mhm.
from the ego that binds them on a daily
Right,
basis.
right. And I can give you some material as to how I work with energy that everybody would understand. It's not me who is giving the energy to anybody. It is co-creative process. The giver and receiver must enter into synergistic mode for energy to transmit. And that's what you must have felt.
Absolutely. It was wonderful.
Yes,
Yes, it was great. So what made you decide to start the Amrit Yoga Institute?
well, my passion is self-discovery. And then deepen that by helping people who are in the self-discovery process. That's why I opened this.
So did you go from Gainesville to then
No, from
coming
Gainesville,
here?
then I went to my original ashram in Sumney Town.
Okay.
So I continued there for a couple of years. Then I love Florida. So I found a beautiful property.
This
so
is
I came
beautiful.
back there.
So what year did you start up the Amrit Yoga Institute?
I think it was in 2000.
And what is your
No,
ultimate...
not 2000. I don't remember, but I think you'll find it. I've written specific figures,
Sure.
11 years or
So
something.
you've been here a while.
Right.
What ultimately is your end goal with the Amrit Yoga Institute? Are you functioning exactly where your vision was for the Institute?
No, I'm moving more and more towards it. See, right now, it is a beautiful community. We have very young people, and they're dedicated. They want to live their life. They want to dedicate their life, but they don't know what that means.
Yes.
So I have to help them to see what that means and what it takes to do what they think they want to do.
And what a blessing.
Yes.
What a blessing for them. Yes.
And then that yoga that I developed, it has been so highly respected by some of the greatest authorities in the world, including Prime Minister of India.
Wow.
When he came to America and visited Kripalu Center, he immediately wrote a letter to the Prime Minister then. He was ex-Prime Minister of India. He wrote to the Prime Minister, this Yogi Amrit Desai deserves the highest honor from government of India for what he has done.
That's fantastic.
And that is like, what is that scientists get, what is that called? This
Nobel Peace Prize.
Nobel
Yes.
Prize, that's like Nobel Prize from the government of India for what I have done.
So now when you go back to India, is it almost like you're a celebrity, how celebrities are here in America?
They don't know me much yet, but that is about to explode.
Yes.
And they are inviting me to some of the largest gathering of yoga festivals in big cities of India as a keynote speaker. And I'm taking there the training of Yoga Nidra, teacher training.
Yeah.
And I have an ashram in India now.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
my guru's ashram. And that's where we will carry out the training for Yoga Nidra teachers and yoga teachers later on. So tomorrow, the gentleman who has a school, big center, sponsored by government, that is on yoga, dance, music, and he's coming tomorrow. So we are looking into, we have approval of Yoga and Ayurveda University here.
Wow.
I'm the founder also.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have also developed the master's degree courses here. So we'll take it there, affiliate with those organizations in India. And in India, there are more people now. They need to be properly trained as yoga teachers, and there'll be paid positions for them because now yoga is adapted in schools and high schools and colleges.
Yes.
So we have a very good chance of taking this work on that level.
Wonderful. So does that mean you'll be traveling to India more then?
I don't want to travel much,
Yes.
but I will go to get it started.
Yes.
Then I'm training teachers here. They will go there and continue.
That's great. Yeah, because going to the airport all the time can be exhausting
Very,
just in the screening process.
I know.
Exactly. So many people today are trying to make a name for themselves. What advice would you want to give them?
Well, when you are working for external achievement that is demonstrable to the world, look what I can do. That's a function of the ego. And so the ego is working in the external world where you can show people, look who I am. But who is working for that? Who I am not. Ego mind that lives in separation from the oneness that I am. So it is the self-image who feels insecure inside. I don't have a good opinion of myself. I don't like myself, but that's not all conscious. So that ego self, is trying to go outside to make a name. So see, more people say, I have done it, so maybe I'll begin to get convinced that I'm okay. So people who are not okay with themselves, they are the ones who get so driven by the need for name and fame.
Do you believe there's another side
So
to
that
it?
is why when it was all taken away from me, it didn't bother me.
Because
Didn't
you were
bother me.
connected inside.
Because it was not for that. That was my more experiential conviction that I would have never known if I was already there or not.
It didn't define you.
Right.
Those
That's-
things did not define you.
None at all.
Your definition was already connected with
Right.
inside self.
And Mickey Singer, who invited me after that event of leaving Kripalu to him, he wanted to see how Yogi handles.
You said it was your test, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was my test, and he was checking it out too. He wanted to support me, but also
Yes.
see how a yogi would
And you
handle.
passed the test.
So
and here we are.
he's the one who has written the New York's bestseller book,
Wow.
Untethered Soul. That is
Wow.
New York Times bestseller. And second one is almost coming up there, called Surrender Experiment. He's my closest friend, and I stayed at his center.
Do you believe that, though, there could be a different side? When I say people trying to make a name for themselves, the things I look at that, say, someone like Oprah has done, she truly is this force trying to make a positive difference in the world, much like yourself, of the passion and purpose to teach and move and advance people beyond the ego stage.
Mm-hmm. Somebody like that, she's in an amazing position, and yet she does it from the heart.
Yes,
Otherwise,
exactly.
she wouldn't be so consistent.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
But it has, only she would know where she's working for. I cannot speak about it.
Exactly.
To me, she is doing a good job.
Correct. So there are those people out there that are
Absolutely.
growing
Absolutely.
and pushing
They don't
hard,
have to
but
be
it's
yogi.
from the heart.
Because people know intuitively what is the right way to be in the world, which I call life is a perpetual therapeutic irritation.
I like that.
It's perpetual, and it's therapeutic. It's not to punish you. It's a therapy. And take it well, and it works well.
Yes.
So that's what I did.
Wonderful. How many books have you written? You've written several books and lots of
Several books.
awards.
I want to give you my bio and CV,
Yes.
so you have a correct, complete detail about it.
Perfect. Of how many
And
books
how many
exactly?
very famous people have said what about my work.
That would be
So I'm
fantastic.
recognized as one of the earliest pioneer to bring yoga to the West.
Yes.
Me.
And I'm honored to be in your presence.
Right. That's what they have said, and that is true.
Yeah.
Because when I came in 1960, it was 7 years after Yogananda, 8 years after Yogananda left his body. And I was the earliest yogi to come to West. And there were some who came, but they were not most biggest, most known. And I'm the last one still alive. They have all gone.
Wow.
This is the earliest and last.
And this was a predetermined time for us to be sitting here
Yeah,
today
yeah.
at this moment in time.
Yes.
What is your definition of yoga?
My definition of yoga is the meaning of yoga, actually. The meaning of yoga is to move from conflict-creating, stress-producing, body-mind conflict to body, mind, heart, and soul unification. That's yoga.
As Oprah says, that's a tweetable moment.
Right.
Yes.
But how popular yoga is practiced popularly is not practiced that way.
Yes.
Because they practice yoga as a physical discipline
Yes.
guided by the ego mind. So externally they are doing so-called yoga postures because they are demonstrated in the book called yoga. So they think it is yoga posture. No, yoga posture happens with what you do with your body and how your mind is and heart is in complete harmony with where you are,
that's good.
what you are doing, so completely that you are in alpha integrated state.
Yes.
Then you are doing yoga.
Wonderful. Great definition. What is your definition of God?
Definition of God is you have misunderstanding of anything that you say about God. That's my definition.
Okay. And do you practice any kind of organized religion?
No, none of the organized religion, because they have all become either dogmatic or ritualistic, and then they ask you to believe things. I have moved completely out of it. everything I teach is how to know, to connect to God that you are, and empower people to connect with the God power that is already inborn within them as a potential. And that's my uniqueness.
Wow.
And there are many books say that too.
Yes.
But I have the techniques that people can practice that will lead them to really experience the oneness that God is.
Yes.
Yes.
And somebody who spoke a lot about the God within, Dr. Wayne Dyer, did you ever have the honor of meeting him before
No,
he
I
passed?
didn't meet him.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to
wonderful
meet
soul.
Wayne Dyer.
Okay.
I had already talked to him on the phone, and he's one of the closest lady who was there, came here. So she said, I'll connect with you. So he said, I have my brother living in Ocala. So when I come, I'll see you. But before he came, he passed on.
Yes, yes.
Similar thing happened with Edgar Mitchell.
Wow.
I was just trying to meet with him, and I called him. He died. He had just I'm missing a little bit.
You know, everything flows in synchronicity exactly as it's supposed to, especially at your level of surrender, consciousness, and awareness. So
Right.
if it was meant to be, it would have happened. But
Right.
it's
So
okay.
that's what.
Yeah. Which brings me to, what do you think happens when we die?
What we happens if we die?
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing what you think.
Okay.
So I won't say anything.
How do you know what I'm thinking?
No, I mean, I will have to tell you what I think.
Yes,
so I won't tell you.
And what is your definition of soul?
My definition of soul is when I am born, the soul enters through the medium of the breath and enters as I am, sense of I am, that remains as potential to be realized. But it is born through the medium of breath, and breath activates autonomic nervous system. So the oneness in us, I am, is, like yogis say, it is half male and half female united. That is called samadhi in yoga. That is your highest center of consciousness. But it has manifested as two in polarity, where male sympathetic nervous system and female parasympathetic nervous system are in co-creation. So subconscious and superconscious. So superconscious has manifested as subconscious in the body. That is why Christ said, your body is the temple of God.
Yes.
And even yoga practitioners are violent with their body.
Yes.
They do not know how to connect with the wisdom of the body.
I'm glad you
That's
said
my
that.
special contribution to the practice of yoga.
Wow. What is your definition of awareness? We talk a lot about consciousness and awareness. What is the definition?
See, different people have different understanding about awareness. Mm-hmm. To me, awareness we are already born with. We are aware. I am aware of what you are saying. I am aware of what I see. But I am not in my conscious awareness. Consciousness means I am. So I am is choiceless. So that's if you want to go to the witnessing presence, you have to become choiceless about everything that you encounter. And awareness can choose, I like it, I don't like it. I'm aware of it, but I hate it. Oh, I love it. So that's not awareness in the real meaning.
Yeah.
So I have to put conscious awareness.
Yeah.
So consciousness means I am the soul. It is eternal. And as soon as I choose, I like it, I divide the eternal omnipresent presence. One that divides is called ego mind.
I was just going to say, would choiceless mean putting ego to the side?
Right.
Okay.
And this I describe in such beautiful detail that people say, aha, that's what I'm doing. And then I also explain, forgiveness is not doing complete job. because you say, you messed up my life. Now that I'm sick and I'm dying, I think I'm killing myself because I hate you. So now I accept you. So my healing may happen. I still heal you. That's not forgiveness.
Right.
This forgiveness means when you come back to truth, whatever I perceived about that person was the false perception of reality. Then I don't have to forget. I know the truth, what is. That's how I explain.
Would it be in simple terms for somebody who may not be at the level of getting it? Would it be, I'm forgiving because I realize what turns up is a reflection of where I'm at that moment in time? Just like mistakes, it's okay, I see how that happened, I take ownership for it, and therefore I forgive.
If person has that understanding, that will really begin to work.
Okay.
But people, they do not know real forgiveness.
Yes.
So what you're describing is getting better, but not to the level where I am talking.
Yes.
When you know the truth, that person never hurt you.
Yeah.
Because whatever they said, it never got to you the way they said. How it got to you is what you said about what they said, that's what got to you. And that's what offended you. So if you know the truth, you made it what it appeared to be coming from them. You don't need to forgive them. Know the truth, and that is sufficient.
So that's going, again, at a much deeper level than somebody who says nothing happens to you unless you give yourself permission for it to happen to you.
Right. And many times you don't give permission. It takes over. Everything that is unconscious happens mechanically, habitually, and compulsively. People do not have, their mind is not serving them, it serves their habits, not them. Everything the manner I eat, the manner I talk, manner I interact with people is just habitual.
So what is the...
So that is why, that's how I was able to go beyond anything, no matter what kind of trauma. That was a tsunami. That wasn't a flood that hit me.
So it's a tsunami, yes.
Yeah, that wasn't ordinary.
Yes.
It was more than any of the fears that I have had before it happened.
Yes. But it catapulted you even further along your path of greatness with inside self.
Right. That's why I came out even better than when I was in it before.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what people think about me or what I think about myself. It was about seeing the reality, how the world works.
As we're speaking about how the world works, the reality is today there's so much electrical interference with electronics, kids with gaming, all of this. And I do want to touch upon the younger generation. What do you feel is the biggest interference today for people's awareness?
What I see is we have in our society and culture 7.5 billion people on this earth. They're all looking through the material world how to make it better. And they have, through the science and technology, and through physics, through biology, through chemistry, through mathematics, through everywhere, we have explored the secrets of the external world, how it works, what are the hidden laws. So when we discovered the secret of electricity, now anybody can buy it. So science has given us the gift of more convenient external world. So now we have calculators, we have phones where we can talk with people remotely, even see them on our phone, and we have GPS. We have all the gifts that yogis could get after many years of sadhana. So we have the powers of God before we have learned to be humans.
Oh, that's good.
That's a problem.
That's good.
Science has given us so many conveniences,
Yeah.
but it has not given any more convenience to live a healthy, balanced life. it has created more nuisance in living a healthy, balanced life. Why? Because we try to solve everything externally. How to make my desires come out faster and sooner? How can I be more creative, sleep less, do more, achieve more, and be famous?
It's the gerbil wheel. Yes, exactly. Then how do you feel the shift can be made in society? It's one thing to teach,
Right.
as you have your path and I have mine and so many others out there. But it's almost like saying somebody goes to an organized religion of church. They listen to the message, they get fed, they feel great, they go back out, and they're right back to where they started all over again. How do we make the shift?
This is very important question because that's all I pay attention to and nothing else. So when, see most people then when many people write about, like about psychology, or a doctor who writes about the medicines, or writes about the research work, or a psychologist who gives you advice about how to deal with when you are in your conflict with your children, with your husband, with your wife, with your work. Everybody is writing. But when they get the same problem, they cannot work it out themselves. That means they don't know what they're talking about. So this is why in India there was guru-disciple relationship. So guru must have learned how to work out those situations that he faced in his life. So he knows how to go through it and go beyond it. That is what I have learned from being a disciple to a great enlightened master like Kripalu, and through my own practice and experiences and learning how to deliver it so it will bring the change in their life. Okay. Therefore, if I say if it doesn't change your life, it's not yoga. If it changes your body, that's not enough.
But for example, I as a wellness strategist could say to people, you've got to watch the chemicals that are in your environment. You've got to watch what's in your food, and it seems overwhelming and it seems foreign, and to some they're just so bought into society that it's hard for them to make a shift.
No, what
sometimes.
you say makes sense because I also teach what to eat, good foods and nutritious food and exercise and yoga and meditation. That is true. But that has to be accompanied because those wrong foods creates poisons in your body. But they are putting more poisons and more dangerous poisons when they're emotional, angry, fearful, frustrated. Mm-hmm. So that's a part I teach through the practice of yoga and yoga nidra and yoga therapy and all these things, and Ayurveda, how to detoxify your body as well as how to detoxify your mind and emotions.
Yes.
If I show them, and then they can change. So when they go home, amazing things. Their relationship with their husband just changes. With their parents, 15 years they haven't talked. Now all of a sudden, they feel so completely different. And parents call them even. Because when they change, there is communion that happens.
But it almost seems like today there's so many people that have bought into the system, per se, that, for lack of better words, they have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired before they really get the awakening and awareness that they have to make a shift.
System. You call it system. I call it familiar prison.
Oh.
They just cannot get out of it.
Yes.
And that's why I have to talk and talk and talk and rationally talk and show them that you're messing up your life. And then I also teach, how many of you really started doing something, so I want to do this thing so my life is more miserable? Nobody does it. And everybody ends up misery looking for happiness. What's the matter here?
So it's really making them aware that they're in a familiar prison, to begin with.
Right.
Once they have the awareness and awakening to what they are in, it is only then that they can personally choose to make the shift.
Right, because this is, the ego tries to make change life by changing what they have, relationship, work, money, power, prestige. This is changing who you are. It's completely reverse shift. And the whole culture in the world is all about how do I make the change in the world, and that's a person who is on television, in newspaper, in politics. Everybody says that you got it. They are the losers. When they go old, they find, oh my God, I wasted my life.
I'm exhausted. Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Exactly.
So instead of feeling retired, when they retire, they are so retarded and so loss of energy.
Yeah.
Their health has so gone down. Their energy is so low.
Because they didn't
They
connect.
cannot enjoy what they have earned.
Yes.
That means they victimize themselves.
Because they didn't connect.
They didn't know.
With inside self.
This is what I teach, how to have in the beginning what you want in the end. That is my very
that's
number
great.
one training in yoga. So if you want harmony in the end, do everything you do, let it bring harmony in your life. You cannot just practice conflict while you are doing practice and you feel rejecting yourself, you judge others, you're competing with others, and you're then practicing yoga. And how hard should you try so you will reach samadhi, the ultimate unification? You're practicing conflict. And that will go deeper.
Yeah.
That's what people do
Yeah.
in their ego-oriented, goal-oriented lifestyle.
Oh, I like that. Ego and goal in this same scenario.
Because mind works in the dimension of time.
Yeah.
Spirit works beyond the time and space.
Absolutely.
This I teach how to go beyond mind and time, called yoga.
Very
That's a
good.
union with the spirit and soul.
I love how you say in your relationship CD, it's really learning to live in balance between the two. Right?
Exactly. It's
And
between the
harmony.
two. It's not like one or the other. See, these are the two wings of consciousness, doing and being. If you're just doing, it's like flopping one wing. If you don't bring back to being who you really are, balance, then you become airborne.
Exactly. You're floating out there. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
What would you say you have yet to accomplish before time is up?
Just, I am being present, and it's not to be accomplished, it is to be revealed as I live every moment, moment to moment. Am I living in the present, or am I living for the future?
That's
Nothing
good.
to be accomplished,
Yeah.
everything to be lived.
I love it. We talk a lot about ego, and some say it's edging God out. What would be your definition of ego, so that, because we've talked about it so much?
Who talks about edging God out?
There's a few spiritual teachers have talked about the scenario of saying ego, the form of it would be like edging God out, and it could be the God within.
Right. That is true.
Okay.
Ego is, in what we call ego in psychology, is prodigal son in the religious language. Prodigal son takes the energy of God and moves away from God, seeking what God he moved from. God is love.
Yeah.
And he's seeking love using the energy of God. So what is the energy of God? Sympathetic is God's energy, God's creator. And parasympathetic is a medium through which God creates in your body.
Yes.
So ego mind takes over sympathetic nervous system. It creates everything according to its habits and behavior pattern, habit patterns, and then that is called karma. So everything you create karma is individual creation against the reality of God's presence that is omnipresent. So you become isolated. The further you move from God, of oneness within, more lonely you become. And those are the people who feel guilty, isolated, lonely, depressed, anxious, worried. Those are the symptoms of living in the hell.
And definition of love. I think so many people today have the definition confused.
So definition of love is source of love is within you. Anything that you seek outside is dependency on the love, and it's not going to work.
And loving self unconditionally.
And loving self.
Yes.
And thus I write I think you might want to get some ideas like what else I have said to include in this areas.
Yes.
That will make it a little more towards what you are trying to bring out.
Yeah, I'm going to quote some of the relationship book as well. There's some very
Well,
good teachings in there.
I have a poetry book that has also won 4 awards.
Wow.
And that is, I think you'll be able to quote, it's like very terse but very pointed
Yes.
quotes you can use.
Yes, absolutely. We'll put some of those in. Today, your daughter, your son, and your wife, where are they today?
So my wife passed on
Okay.
2006. So my daughter and son works with me.
Yeah.
And they are wondering, most Americans said, that's amazing, like your daughter and your son is working with you that intimately. That's what I'm talking about,
That's great.
living in consciousness.
And your daughter just got married and, did I hear, went to Iceland?
Yes.
For a time period?
Yes, yes.
Very good. What is
And
the...
she has written a book, beautiful book too.
Oh.
When I read, I couldn't put it down.
Aww.
I never read book. I never read any book. Even after I write a book, I never read it
Oh, wow.
from page to end page.
Why
Never.
is that?
I don't know. That's not my style. So I read other books also, like from middle, if I like inspiring, then I
Yeah.
read, and then I go in my own stuff. That acts as a trigger to my own.
Yes.
Then I go into my writing.
What is the biggest advice you would like to leave for society
Biggest
today
what?
and the younger generation advice?
What would I like to live?
What advice would you like to pass down to the younger generation?
Well, for me, advice is not what I would live, but I would live the teachers who have built the advice into life so they continuously produce it. In other words, I don't want to give them a fish. I want to make them fishermen. And so they
That's
can
great.
eat for life.
That's great. That's
Yes.
great.